She's the CEO of leading real estate companies of the world. Will she be changing her company's name to leading real estate companies of the galaxy after this? Let's find out by welcoming the CEO of Leading RE, Pam O'Connor.
Thank you. Good morning, and first of all, I want to congratulate Inman Connect on 20 wonderful years. And if you think about what this conference is all about, it's about sort of exploring the new frontiers of real estate, right? So you're in for a treat, because this morning we are going to explore an even more literal frontier, which is the planet Mars. Now you might be sitting there saying, that's a crazy idea. But I was a little girl when President John F. Kennedy made a promise to this country that we would go to the moon within 10 years. And you know what? We did it in 8. And that was a wild and hairy and audacious and crazy idea, but amazing things are possible. So before you discount this idea, you're in for a treat. We're going to hear from a Dutch scientist, mechanical engineer, Bas Lansdorp, whose life's work and dream is to settle on Mars. And it's not a crazy idea. He's actually got people applying to go. So sit back and listen and hear about the people who want to go and live on Mars. Thank you.
I want to go to Mars not just to be a part of history, but to inspire people around the world.
The colonization of Mars is the adventure of the century.
This is our chance to get the world excited about space again.
If we can look up from Earth and know that human beings are living on another planet, will we ever again be able to tell ourselves that there's anything we can't do?
I want to contribute directly to mankind's confident expansion into the solar system, which we have to do if we're going to survive in the long term.
I believe it is in our nature, and it is our destiny.
I want, after I die, the impact of my life is imparted upon those who follow.
I know it comes at the cost of living Earth forever, but future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
Good morning, everyone. So, before I tell you how a small Dutch company like Mars One can send humans to Mars in 2027, I would like to tell you why I believe it is important that humans go to Mars and start the effort of going to Mars right now. I believe that 500 years from now, when kids learn about the 21st century in their history books, I think they will not learn about a conflict in Syria or an economic crisis. I think they will learn that in the 21st century, humans first set foot on Mars. And it doesn't matter if my company Mars One will do it, or if NASA will do it, or if someone else will do it, it will happen in the next 84 years, in the 21st century. And that is what will define this century. So, I think it's not just defining, but I think it's important. It can change the world. We're not going to Mars for Mars, we're going to Mars for Earth. We can make Earth a better place by going to Mars. Children will want to become scientists and engineers and astronauts again if they can see humans walk on Mars and be inspired by that. Everyone on the globe will be inspired, and just like in the 60s, like Pam was referencing to the moon landings, more people will start pursuing PhDs. More people will start companies because there will be the mindset that anything is possible, and that can really change the world for the better. So how? Right? If not even NASA has been able to do it yet, how can a small Dutch company like Mars One do it? NASA has been talking about going to Mars in 20 years for 45 years now. Actually, now it's 24 years before they want to go. In the 60s, it was 20 years. Why is that? It's actually not because NASA cannot launch things to Mars. It's not because they cannot land humans on Mars. And it's also not because they can't keep humans alive on Mars. It's because they can't send humans from Mars back to Earth. Well, at Mars One, we have a really simple solution for that. The crews that we send to Mars, they're going to stay there. And that might sound really dramatic to a lot of people here, but of course that's how our planet was explored. That's how our planet was settled. So can I ask, who here would consider it? Who here would consider leaving everything and everyone behind and going to Mars? I've got a few hands, not too many. It's very different from New York, I can tell you. There's no snowstorms. So it might surprise the people who didn't raise their hands to hear that more than 200,000 people applied to go to Mars. The most popular job vacancy of all times, as far as we know. To go to Mars, to stay. So the fact that we don't go back makes everything different. It makes it possible with existing technology. The rockets exist to get there. The systems exist to land, and NASA has landed 7 successful missions on Mars, unmanned missions. The technologies exist to keep humans alive in space and also on Mars. The challenge is really going back, and that makes our plan so different from anything that's been tried before. So we're not just going to send them in 2026, landing in 2027, and hope that everything will be okay. There's going to be a lot of preparation. We sent an unmanned mission in 2020. It's going to be a static platform. It will look a lot like a mission that NASA did in 2007, so we can build on that track record, where we've had our first contract already with Lockheed Martin, the same company that built that mission for NASA, and we'll demonstrate some of the technology that we need for the human mission on that platform. That's 2020. 2 years later, 2022, we're sending a rover to Mars that will drive around on the surface and will determine the exact spot of the outpost. So we'll know whereabouts it's going to be, and this rover will find the place with enough water that's nice and flat for construction, such that we know that we can build the outpost there. Again, 2 years later, 2024, we're going to send all the hardware for the humans, but not the humans. So we're sending all the hardware, 2 life support units, 2 living units, a second rover, and a supply unit. The 2 rovers will move all the equipment to the right location. They will deploy the solar panels, activate the life support systems, water will be produced from the surface of Mars, a breathable atmosphere will be produced. And when all that is confirmed to be working, we'll send the first crew to Mars in 2026. First to low Earth orbit, and from low Earth orbit they will launch to Mars. Now imagine that. Imagine being in that rocket ship in Earth orbit and having to push the big red button that starts the rocket engine. Of course, physically it's not really going to be a big red button, that only happens in movies. But psychologically it's going to be a very big red button, because the moment it is pushed, there is no return. The moment they start their rocket engines, they are committed to go to Mars, to never see their friends and families and the Earth again. Imagine that. So after a trip of 7 months, they land on Mars. They open the hatch, they walk down the stairs, which I believe will be the defining moment of the 21st century. And they will find their habitable outpost very nearby. They will move into it. They will need to do a lot of work before it is their new home, because this is their new home for the rest of their lives. A few weeks after they land, the hardware of the second crew will land, such that they have more redundancy in systems, more spare parts in case something breaks. And 2 years later, the second crew lands. And every 2 years, we're sending additional crews and additional hardware. So instead of trying to do the impossible, which is bringing humans from Mars back to Earth, we will send additional crews every 2 years. Now, all these steps are technically possible, as long as you forget about the return journey. Then the second very important question is, okay, how are you going to finance it? And what does it cost? Well, the cost of all the preparatory missions and the first human mission is about $6 billion US. Now, that's quite a lot of money. And the big question in my mind has always been, how do you finance that? What is the business case for Mars? Because you can only do something if you can afford it. This idea for Mars One is really old. I started working on this when I was 20 years old, 1998, 1997. And I could never figure out, how do you finance a human mission to Mars? It was until I found the revenue numbers of another very big event, the Olympic Games. Did you know that the Olympic Games in London made about $4.5 billion US from broadcasting rights and sponsorships and partnerships? $4.5 billion US just because the world is watching. Access to our eyeballs. That's 75% of the cost of a mission to Mars. When I realized that, I knew that there was a business case. And right now we estimate the value, so the media exposure value of our mission until the first year of humans on Mars at about 8 Olympic events. So just that is a good business case for going to Mars. But that's not all. Another very important business case is intellectual property. If you're going to Mars, you're going to build new systems for recycling, for growing plants with as little as possible water and energy, for solar systems, and that's going to give intellectual property that you can use here on Earth too. Very important things, agriculture, recycling. A third one that might sound surprising to a lot of people in the room is donations. When we launched our website in 2012, people started sending us emails, can we please donate? And we didn't expect that, so we didn't have that possibility. We fixed that quickly. And now we receive donations from all over the world, more than 100 countries each month. And there are small amounts of money right now, but we see that with every step that we take, every contract that we close, more people start donating, and the average amount that they donate goes up. And I believe that by the time that our first unmanned mission lands, that will be a lot of money. That really contributes to our mission. And that's people with small wallets. There's also people with very big wallets. There's 250 people in the world that own the value of our mission to Mars, that own $6 billion US private wealth. And we can give these people immortality. They already have a yacht and an island and houses all around the world. We can give them immortality. Not literally, we can't make them live forever, but we can name the first city after them. If Bill Gates, the richest man the last time I checked, if he finances our mission to Mars, the first city will be called Gatesville. Carlos Slim, Slim City. And we have a name ready for all the 250 billionaires on that list. That's not really true. I don't think it will be one of those. I think it will be one that you've never heard of. From the Far East or from the Middle East. Someone who doesn't have a legacy yet, because of course Bill Gates and Carlos Slim already have a legacy. So, the most important way of financing our mission right now is investments. Mars One is a not-for-profit foundation, but we have licensed all the revenue possibilities, so the media revenue, intellectual property revenues, to a for-profit entity where we've already had our first investment round in 2013, and we've just signed a deal with, oh, I need to close.
Finish it up.
Finish it up. You promised me 13 minutes, and I got only 10. I'll wrap up. Thanks. So investments are very important. Finally, I'd like to tell you why I am here. Why am I trying to do the impossible? Because there's easier ways to make a living than to try to organize a manned mission to Mars. I'm doing this because this is my dream. I want to contribute to getting humans closer to Mars. And we already have. The world is speaking about it. In the last report that NASA wrote, their roadmap to Mars, they are talking about going to Mars to stay. And I hope that we have influenced that. We are changing the discussion about Mars exploration, and I'm very proud of that.
And we're going to have Connect in Mars in 2035.